I'm going to have to close that door when we start, and if you wouldn't mind letting people in, that'd be great. And also, if you're sitting in the back, maybe you could, people always come late. It's just human nature. And the nature of busy lives at Berklee, so if you could help out, that would be great. Just want to make sure my audio works because I have some examples I need to play here. So we're going to talk today about the relationship between what you learn in ear training and your instrument. How many of you are vocalists primarily? Okay, and how many of you are drummers, hand drummers, or drum set players? Okay, good. So we have 5, almost half the group. In your cases, you'd probably want to do these exercises with a keyboard, or if you play a mallet instrument, you could use that. Or for the singers and drummers, if you play a secondary instrument like guitar, flute, whatever it might be. Any instrument that's capable of producing the chromatic scale you could use. You can actually do a lot of the exercises that I'm going to show you with something as simple as I don't know if you've ever seen this. Let me see if I can get online here. A virtual keyboard app, or a little piano app on a smartphone, things like that. Let's see if I can get on wireless here. I'll just take a second. I'll show you something that I find myself using fairly often. If you have perfect pitch, absolute pitch, long-term pitch memory, then this is not so important, but still you might want to relate what you're doing to the keyboard. So if you Google virtual piano, there is is it this one? It's a couple of these. Yeah, this one works. And you can just use it any place you have Wi-Fi, on a phone or a tablet or your laptop. It's taking a while. This isn't the one I meant to use, but this works. Should work. Well, yeah, so you can get pitches from that. The one I was going to use loads faster. It's this one. So my point here is that what we're doing, it's about relating it to an instrument, but it can really be any instrument, and the keyboard, no matter what your instrument is a really useful tool. It's the only instrument that I can think of that is in front of you, visual. I guess the pedal steel guitar is like that. It has one location per note, so there's a variety of reasons, and it's capable of playing harmony and multiple things at the same time. So a lot of uses for the keyboard. And I might keep this up here just to show you some stuff on the keyboard so you have a visual reference. I've given you a keyboard on your handout on the back. And if you're not participating with an instrument, I want you to do the stuff that we're doing on this keyboard. Yeah, who didn't get a handout? I have a few more. Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Okay. Sorry. Okay. Everyone has one now? I'll put a few by the door. Never works, but I'll do it anyway. I've never yet seen anybody stop and pick one of these up even if I put it like right here where they can't get by it. We'll do it as an experiment. See if anyone takes one. Okay. So when you take core ear training classes, if you were in ear training, I know a lot of you started in ear training 4 or other levels, but let's say you're starting in ear training 1. One of the first things your teacher will tell you is don't use an instrument. Don't feed yourself the notes from the piano. Don't go record all these examples and memorize them as a rote kind of auditory learning. We want you to look at the notation and use your inner hearing and get organized, an internal sense of where the pitches are. Given a reference pitch, the tonic, you should be able to find the notes on your own of these things, whether it's sight singing or prepared music. And that is all good, and there's a point that I'm going to make as I show you how to use your instrument in ear training. The most important thing I'm going to say is sing first, play second. So you're always going to sing things and then apply it to your instrument after you've sung it. The singing is still really, really important. I don't think you ever get beyond the usefulness of doing that. So you just have to discipline yourself not to play something and then try to sing it, but to sing it first, to do these particular kinds of exercises with these goals. So you can read what I wrote here. I wrote a whole essay about this here that you can read later if you want, or to review or share with somebody else if you're interested. Some of these handouts, they have different dates on them, but they are, some are from a clinic I did at University of Colorado 2 weeks ago. Some are from 5 years ago. They're the same handout. I'm just saving paper. Did you just come in? Yeah. Okay, there's a few up here. Good. All right, it worked. You picked it up on the way in. I was just saying nobody ever does that, but you did it. You are far more aware than most people who walk into a room. Okay, good man. My point with this is that if you're an improviser, actually I can hardly think of a musical area where this is not useful. But it's especially useful if you're an improviser or an interactive musician or somebody who plays ear-based music where you learn from other players or work out music live with other people, like in a band, a rock band, a pop band, a studio. You know, it's so common for people in a studio setting to, it does work. Okay, it's a new generation. People in a studio setting to go like, find a harmony part to that, or something that, isn't arranged. Even arranged music is often changed spontaneously by ear in live situations, right? Most of the music that people at Berklee specialize in, everything except for strictly classical ensemble music, involves decision-making on stage or in the recording studio. You're hearing something and you decide to play a fill or do something a little differently or voice a chord differently or respond to the singer. Or if you're a singer, you interpret differently or you notice the people accompanying you are doing things differently. So there's very little, unless we're dealing with strictly pre-recorded, note-by-note worked out electronic music or fully notated classical music where you have limited choices and have to follow a conductor or a score and a score. Most other music involves using your ear to make decisions. And so you have to be able to perceive melody notes very accurately and very quickly, and you have to be able to perceive them in relation to keys, in relation to all 12 keys. And so basically what I want to show you is how can you apply solfege and the things that you've learned and are learning and will learn to build up these goals, which are at the bottom of the page. Seamless connections between your inner hearing, your mental ear, your audiation, the ability, when you talk about visualization, we have a word for that. You close your eyes and you visualize a mountain or a chicken or whatever. We don't have a common word for doing that with music. There is a word that music education researchers use. It's called audiation, the ability to imagine somebody playing Mary Had a Little Lamb or Happy Birthday right now, or a national anthem or whatever song you know. Imagine it in minor, okay? You probably never heard that in your life, but you can imagine it because you're a musician and you know what that means, and so you can imagine it. So when you do that, it's like visualizing. You're visualizing music. Audiation is the word, like visualization. So we want to make a connection between that, which is really important. And for most people, at first it's vague, and you don't know that it's vague. Like you know that you hear a melody, you think like, why can't I play like what I hear in my head? I heard a great solo in my head that went, well, those aren't pitches. Those are general gestures in the up and down direction. They weren't very specific, right? So there were a few pitches in there, but there was a lot of, kind of sliding around that you can't play on your instrument. So the point is, your audiation has to start becoming clear and specific and granular and super accurate. That's one thing, and fast. You want to build a connection between that, between the sounds you hear from other people, your voice. Whether you're a vocalist or not, this is the instrument that you've had your whole life that can produce pitches that's in your body, you know. So whether you're a singer or not, it is a tool of communication in band leading, teaching, composition, when you're alone. And if you have the muscle memory and the knowledge of your own voice and pitches in your own voice, even if you're not a good singer who sounds good on recordings or in concert, but you can just produce the notes, it changes your perception. If you can do something, you hear it. You know, if you've played a sport, when you watch people play the sport, your brain is active literally in a different way because you know those movements. Like you know what swinging a bat or kicking a soccer ball is, then you watch that and you actually perceive more of it. The same thing is true with music. If you play the guitar and you watch somebody playing the guitar, you know what they're doing in a way that I don't, because I don't play the guitar very much, you know. And it's very specific. So when you can sing, you hear pitches better, even if you can just sing a little. And then the connections with your instrument, including a keyboard, and with notation. So we're trying to build, a lot of times people say ear training is two things, your voice and notation. You look at it and you sing it, well, your voice in your ears. And then you hear it and you write it, right? So there's singing and there's dictation. But in real life, there's many other things musicianship is connected with and ear training is connected with. Your inner hearing, your instrumental ability, and the names of things, as well as the notes on the staff, many things. When you have more confidence in your hearing, you have better time because you don't hesitate and you're not surprised by what you just played. So your flow is better and your rhythmic accuracy gets better. When you hear these super great musicians improvise, whether it's, you know, in rock and roll or hip hop or jazz or any style, and they sound confident and expressive and their time is great, they know what they're playing, you know. It's not that they pre-practiced it usually, it's that they know as they think of it, it's like talking to them. It just comes right out correctly. The other thing is when you hear stuff in your head, well, you become less reliant on habits and motor memory, and so you're a more creative musician and more expressive, and you communicate more feeling and more with your fellow musicians and with the audience. Like if you just memorize licks on your instrument and then go like, I hope I remember them, and play them, when you look at a chord change, you play lick A, then lick B, then lick C, you're confined to what your motor memory and your habits have taught you. And you're not able to respond in a new way to, you know, the drummer play something different and that lick doesn't sound good anymore. You still have to play something you know. That's very limiting and you want to get past that. So, okay, that's a lot of abstract why and how and what are the goals and what's the philosophy behind what I'm doing. I want to give you jump to the totally practical, ultra simple. If any of this seems too easy for you, like, well, I could do that when I was 5 or 10, or I have perfect pitch and that's not hard, think about this from a few different angles. You may be, almost every musician teaches, whether you plan to be a teacher for a job or not, somebody's going to ask you for lessons if you're good. And at some point you're going to want the money that they want to pay you for lessons. So yeah, it's fun and inspiring to do, and it's a way to pass on knowledge. So whether you teach now or when you're 70 years old and, you know, retiring or whatever, you will probably share musical information with people, whether it's little kids or, you know, music therapy or teaching, you know, people like professionals, or being a band leader of younger musicians who don't know everything you know. You'll be in some kind of teaching situation. So all the things I'm going to show you, you can use, whether you can do them perfectly or not. You could use them with kids, and you could use them with adults, and you can use them with bands. I've done these things with bands a lot, other professional musicians who have great ears, but we do it as a way to get our heads together, you know, organized and conscious of one another, and as a warm-up. So I'll show you some things here. So the first thing, I'm just going to close this. We're making some sounds. I was totally wrong. The first time I ever announced that problem, and then it went away. That's great. Everybody picked up a handout. So, first of all, you need a reference pitch. And in fact, I like to do this with a drone. A drone is a continuous sound, and specifically, when you're talking about pitched music, drones are very often the tonic and another note, usually the perfect fifth, especially in Western music or pseudo semi-Western music. So, for example, get my pen working here. It's not very good. You know, if we were doing it in C, we might want to have a continuous C and a G. First problem is, you know, how are you going to create that? You have an A on your metronome or your tuner. You have a laptop that can produce pitches. You could set up something in, you know, GarageBand or any recording program that loops or repeats something. You can just play it on a keyboard with the pedal down. If you have a sustain pedal, you know, pick a sustaining sound. Let me make sure. Make sure I'm relatively in tune here. Okay, so sing those two notes. Do, sol. You can use a looping pedal. The tradition of performing tonal music with a drone or modal music is especially common in the like Western and Southern Asia, the Middle East and India and Pakistan. And this device is one of the instruments that people use. It's called a Shruti box, and you can tune it. It has controls. It's just like a really simple electric organ kind of thing. People have been using these for a long time. They can be a pump organ. The manual kind is like an organ, harmonium. It's spelled like this. And you can get an iPhone app that does that, which is designed for Indian music. I was trying to find my phone. Anyway, look that up on the App Store, and you can get applications that do that. There are probably websites that do it. It's like $2 or something. So what key is that in? A, right. Checking, okay. So that's one way to get a drone. You can carry one of these around. You know the Indian instrument that is a four-stringed instrument that's held vertically and is used to accompany Indian music. Have you ever seen that? Usually when you see like a sitar player, there'll be a drummer, hand drummer, tabla, and a sitar in North India, and a four-stringed instrument that just keeps repeating a drone, and you can buy tracks of that sound. It's called a tampura, or spelled two ways in English or other languages. You might see it written either of those ways. And that sounds like this. So this is in B flat. So let's start with a major scale. If I wanted to do this with, say, a third grade recorder class, right? I'm not a music ed kids music ed person. I've always taught college, but let's say you wanted to do this in a class where kids are they know like 5 notes on the recorder so far, right? You probably wouldn't do it in B flat on the recorder. You do it in C or G, but we'll do it in B flat. So I would ask them to sing some notes. Sing do, right? Do, re. Back down. Okay, now if you're in G on the recorder, you only need to do this, you know, 3 fingers, 2 fingers, 1 finger, and you can play that. Same with the alto saxophone too. So just to get in the motions of this, do everything we do, play it on your little keyboard here, okay? You think about music education, like background of people who go to Berklee, roughly, I don't know what percentages, but a whole bunch of people did music in high school, elementary school and high school. They had lessons, they saw written music in lessons, they took band, they learned the fingerings, they looked at the notes on the staff as they learned, etc. And a whole bunch of people learned by tablature, live performance with bands, jamming, videos, other ways of learning, especially guitar, bass, percussion, and voice, but not only those instruments. Sometimes folk traditions on string instruments like fiddle and banjo and some of the less common instruments. So like the wind players, people like me usually came up with this notation-based thing, and a lot of the pianists, and a lot of other people didn't. And so if you look at what goes on in school music for as long as I know, and up to this day, in many, many cases, not general music, but instrumental education, they never sing. I mean, I have a kid who's played saxophone in school since 4th grade, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th grade, never sang one note in 7 years of band, right? They never sing. Then you go to college and you go, do ear training, sing. You're supposed to be a good musician, you should be able to sing. Of course they sing in general music, but that's a different thing. They never make the connection between their voice and their instrument. What we just did, sing that again. Do, re, mi. Do, re, mi, re, do. Play it. Is a connection in the brain that has never been emphasized as being worth pointing out to millions and millions of kids who learn music. It's like it's never been pointed out to them that that's worth being able to do. And they don't do call and response either. They don't listen to somebody play and then try to play what they played. They just read music, right? And reading music's great, but what about these other things? Why are they not also great? That's what I'm asking. So if you're in a teaching situation, you can do this stuff. Can you all see over here if I write a solfege ladder? Okay. So. Sorry, I don't have enough room here. Okay, so you can take, what I suggest doing with this exercise is you want to build a three-way connection between specific pitches on the staff, as they're notated in any clef, your instrument, actually four ways, your voice, your instrument, the notation of the pitches on the staff, and their function in the key. And if you, movable do solfege is how we do that at Berklee. If you want to graduate from here and do it with numbers, you can do it with numbers. If you like fixed do or something, but do something that it represents function in the key. That's got to be numbers or movable do, or Indian solfege or some other system of movable solfege. So I'm going to point and you sing. Okay, stop, inhale and sing 10 times louder so you can hear yourself as well as, so. Do, re, mi, fa, ti, do. Okay, now play it on the keyboard. Yeah, now since you're able to, and play it on the saxophone or whatever instrument you have. You can use your iPhone or whatever object you have that plays notes. Okay, now let's do the same thing here. D, do. Need more notes. Okay. Okay. Same thing. Okay. La, sol, mi, fa, re, ti, do. Okay. Remember that? Play it on the little keyboard. See if you can do it. Okay, one more time. Okay. Okay. La, re. Okay. Okay. Now just with the major scale you can get pretty interesting, and you can get melodic ideas from this. You know, this is a great way, like if you're trying to write a song, just noodle around with this and it makes you think about the functions of the notes. You don't have to think about harmony right away. Get a melodic motive, you know, from something like this. It's also, so it's really a tool, a creative tool. We're improvising. I'm sort of playing you guys like an instrument by pointing to this, but if you're doing it by yourself, you're improvising, you're playing yourself, your own voice. You know, you're guiding your voice. By going from relative functional pitch to specific pitch, you're teaching yourself the function of all the pitches in this particular key, and then you just go through 12 keys. You start to know immediately that La in the key of B is G sharp, and La in the key of B flat is G, and La in the key of A is F sharp, and so on. And if you know all 17 chromatic syllables or functions, that, you know, faster than you can say them, as fast as you can think of them, then you really know a lot that you can use as a creative musician on the spot in relation to harmony and so on. Okay, so let's move on from there. How many of you are past steer training 3, like you're in 3 or 4 or beyond? Okay, half the room. So if you haven't had this stuff yet, don't worry about it. I'm just going to foreshadow the future for you a little bit. I'm going to put in purple that's not purple. Sorry. I'm going to put the flat notes on the right, and if you're in ear training 2, you know most of these. May, and lay, and te. There's also say, flat 5, and ra, which is the weird one, which is flat 2, because we already have an A sound. All these things are just unfortunate accidents of history. They've tried to make them regular, you know, back in the 1820s, but someone in, you know, Western European solfege comes from the lyrics of a Latin song, and re was the first syllable of the second note of that song, you know, 1,200 years ago or something. So we're not changing that. So unfortunately, it's too late. So we have this glitch in the system where A sound makes everything flat, except re is already an A sound, so it's an ah sound. Okay, and just want to answer. Then I'll put the sharps on this side. And if you never knew this, you know, in fixed do solfege, 7 is C. I mean, the note B is C. The note B is called C, like that, in fixed do solfege. So if you are in a country where a Latin language is spoken, you need to know that, right? You want to play something in the key of B, it's going to be in the key of C. Okay? But that doesn't work well because we want to at least keep this one thing. And that's not one of the ancient syllables, so it's okay. So it is inconsistent. Do you ever think about the fact that in the white keys, this is just like a piano keyboard? White key, black key with 2 names, white key, black key with 2 names, sharp or flat, 2 white keys in a row, black key with 2 names. You know, that's just like a piano keyboard, but we transpose it to any key, that pattern of the chromatic scale, and how the major scale is laid out within the chromatic scale. Okay, so now it gets suddenly much more interesting. We have 17 notes. Okay? So follow me and sing. Do, fi, sol, fi, mi, re, So like the Lydian mode, you raise the fourth. Do, re, mi, fi, sol. Now play that in B flat on your keyboard or your saxophone. Okay, and we're going to change modes. So we're not just going to stay in Lydian. Sol, fa, me, ra, do. Try that in B flat. So you're going to have a C flat in that. Okay. La, ti, do, te, le, sol. Okay. Okay, so we just did do, re, mi, fi, sol, right? Do, re, mi, fi, sol, and sol, fa, me, ra, do, right? And then we went sol, la, ti, do, te, le, sol. How many notes of the chromatic scale did we use to do those 4 gestures, 4 little licks? Is there anything left out of the chromatic scale? I know we didn't use all the fees and the C and li and D and re, but we, as far as notes on the piano, 12 pitch classes, how many did we use? We used all 12. If you can mix Lydian and Phrygian and go back and forth between them, then you can hear all 12 notes, right? In any key. And you can name them in relation to a key. So Lydian is raise the fourth, for those who haven't had this yet, or need a reminder. That's Phi, right? And Phrygian, excuse me, that's Lydian. It's like major with a raised fourth, okay? And Phrygian, for those who haven't had it yet, one way to think of it is natural minor with a flat 2. So you add a flat to natural minor to get Phrygian, you add a sharp to major to get Lydian, or take away a flat. Like B flat major scale has 2 flats, well B flat Lydian scale has only 1 flat. You take away the last flat, you get Lydian. You add a sharp to a sharp key, you get Lydian. You add a flat to a minor key, you get Phrygian. It always lowers the second. For in B flat minor, which has, how many flats in B flat minor? Minor. 5, yeah, same as D flat major. And if we add, so if we have 5 flats, and then we add one more, the 6th flat, B, E, A, D, G, C flat. Weird note, but that's the note. So, so you have the Phrygian mode. And we got all 12 notes between those. So I'm going to play some things, and I want you to sing them back with solfege and then play them. So this is a 3-step process, and this is a great thing to do with the band, not to humiliate your friends, but to patiently develop a vibe together and use your ears. I had a saxophone quartet that I'm still in it. 32 years we've been playing together. One of the members is relatively new faculty member here, Circe Miller, maybe some of you know her, and 2 others who don't teach here, Tom Hall and Joel Springer, and we played together starting in the early 80s, and 1980 actually, and we used to meet twice a week, and we would start improvising together. We'd start on a unison and just play that note, and then improvise harmonies and try to hear everybody else, and then we would take turns leading in what we're just about to do here. We didn't sing, we should have, but we didn't. But we did it with our instruments, but I would recommend doing it with your voice too. Okay, so I'm going to play something against this drone. I'm still in B flat. I want you to look at the solfege ladder and the keyboard and try to keep both things going in your mind. Luckily this is a 23-minute track that we're singing with. I'll show you the CD. It's my other bag. And so I'm going to play stuff that's in either, I think I'll just, to keep it a little bit simple, it's still kind of advanced, but not super advanced. I'm going to, yeah, so I bought this on CD. It was like $19, but you can just download tracks like this or buy an app that plays these kind of things if you like the Indian music sound. It's just called Tampuras in the key of A sharp. I guess they don't do flats in the land of Tampuras. It's got a half hour on each side, 2 half-hour tracks. So for practicing Indian music, if you don't have your own personal tambura player. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to play something. I want you to sing it approximately the same pace. We're doing this rubato with no meter. You could do all this with a metronome too, or a groove, or a vamp, or a loop. That's a whole other sound, which I'm not going to do today, but it's great. Do it rhythmically. Right now we're doing it rubato just to get into it. So I'll play something. Start with a fairly simple one. You sing it. Do, mi, sol, la, sol. And now you play it. If you are using a paper keyboard, sing. So that's the sound. Do. So it's call, response, response. Call, vocal response, instrumental response. Okay, same thing. Do, re, mi, sol, fi. Fi, that's the fi there, okay. So on the staff and on the piano. So you should end up on E natural, right? Okay. Do, ra, te, do. Play it. Okay. Let me try one. It's a hard one. That's mixed. Okay. So sol, la, ti. There's the first note. Sol, la, ti, fi. Okay, so when it starts to get kind of complicated and interesting and not too easy for anyone, maybe, when you mix modes and you start using notes and you don't resolve tendency tones. I just played 3 tendency tones, none of them resolved, right? If you know your modes and stuff, you know that lay resolves to sol usually. Everything tends to go to the notes of the 1 chord. Ti usually goes to do. Fi usually goes to sol, but I went sol, lay, ti, so I didn't resolve lay. And I didn't resolve ti, I jumped from it to fi. And I didn't resolve fi, I stopped on it, okay? So when you don't resolve tendency tones, melodies sound much more abstract and difficult to hang on to, and you have to imagine the resolutions. So that's like the advanced level of this, Again, if you have perfect pitch and the notes are just, it's like as if I held up a flashcard of a letter to you and said, what letter is this? And you just went, it's A. What do you mean? I can see. When you have perfect pitch, it's like that. It's like me going, what note is this? And you go A sharp, obviously, it says it right there. That's what having perfect pitch is like. You just know what the notes are. They're clear as a bell. If you have that, it's a particular kind of brain wiring that, there's all kinds of research on why more people don't have access to that ability. But the point is, this becomes a different exercise. It's more of a theory exercise. You don't have any trouble recognizing notes. Maybe you'd have trouble if I played 6 notes at once, but you might not have trouble with 1 or 2, 1 note at a time ever. But you might still use it to work on your vocal intonation, to work on your intellectual understanding of the pitches in relation to the tonic in 12 keys, you know, that sort of thing. So you can still work on audiation. Even some of you, I think, probably have perfect pitch. I know there's a entering ear training 4 class here, and a lot of people who take that class usually, the reason they got everything right on the ESPA is that they know what the notes are. So it's also so important to visualize this on the staff. Let's sing what we that weird one I just did again. Sol, la, ti, fi. So here's one way to do that is to go sol, sing with me, sol, la, sol, ti, do, fi, sol. Okay, we're much more confident when we resolve those things. So you just kind of imagine the resolutions. You don't, that's where audiation comes in. If you're trying to grab a note that doesn't resolve and sounds strange, imagine where it wants to go, and it should give you a handle on that note. Are there any questions about applying this? We could do it, the way I usually teach it to classes is I combine it with multiple things. The Global Jazz Institute, which is like a thing within Berklee that people audition for. I teach a class to those students when they're newly in the program, and we go through jazz history, the history of jazz improvisation, I should say specifically. And we do a lot of call and response stuff by ear using this kind of technique. Not with a drone, but you know, I will play things like the language of early jazz using pentatonic scale with some blue notes, for example. You know. And you know, they sing it back. Can you sing that back? Don't use no syllables. Da 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 ba da ba da ba da ba da. It was kind of a long idea. Okay, and then find it on your keyboard. It started on what? We'll do Indian early jazz. So what notes are those? Mi, sol, la, do. Me, re, la, do. Something like that. Me, re, do, la, sol. Okay? And then play that back on your instrument. So, you know, that's how people learn to improvise. I mean, this is how people learn music, probably from like Neanderthal man up to notation, right? How do people learn music? They listened to it, they sang it, they figured out how to play it on flutes and strings and drums and things like that. There's nothing new about this. It's actually reintroducing something very old to a formal musical education setting, you know? It's like the most basic thing there is. Call and response. So we go through jazz history like that up to outside playing on modes, you know, playing on a modal background and playing outside the key. Things like you're in the Dorian mode and you want to play the notes that aren't in the Dorian mode. So that's Dorian mode. What note is this? It's fi, mi, ra, ti. Right. You know, against. You know, half step above the key, in other words, trying to learn to hear that stuff, sing it, and play it. So that would be like the end of that course. I've done some of that with the advanced modal ear training course that Kate is in. So that's where you can take this stuff, you know. Hear it, sing it, play it, know where it is on the staff, know what the solfege is for it. It's very simple. Really, if you just take this one page with the keyboard and the solfege ladder, and you have something that'll give you a pitch, a tuning fork, a tuner, you can like learn ear training for about 5 years using those tools by just going back and forth. Okay, let's work on the key of A. I'm going to mix Lydian and Phrygian. Da 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 da. You know, da 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 da. Sing it. Figure out what it is. I mean, you could use a lot of train trips, becoming a better musician. So, you know, just with your inner hearing, or singing very softly, doing that kind of thing. If you do it, what I would encourage you to do is spend try 5 to 10 minutes, try 7 minutes of the next several times you practice your instrument, just doing this. Sing some ideas and play them on your instrument. If you're near a keyboard, give yourself a drone, do it in different keys each day. Literally 5 to 7 minutes. I think you'll start to see like things happening in terms of how you hear melody, better connection between your inner hearing and your instrument. Okay? Thank you for listening. Hope that's useful to you. I never introduced myself. I just realized I'm not known to all of you. I am Allan Chase. I'm the chair of the ear training department here. And I do one of these once a semester. So thanks for coming. You know, we have, if you don't know about Friday with the Ear, it happens every Friday, 1 o'clock, except midterm final and the first week of the semester, every semester. So just drop by anytime you want. See how different people teach ear training. Keep in mind, you know, if it's something that's review for you, that's easy for you, you might be interested in how they teach it. Maybe someday you'll be helping other people learn this stuff. So you can learn a lot from teachers. Thanks a lot. If anybody needs a signature, I'd be happy to do it.